Hey there, you beautiful internet people. I'm Ruben, and this is Chris from Movies and Munchies, Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday. I'm still with Chris. Today we are diving into a series from Netflix that caught me off guard, probably caught Chris off guard. It's called Murder Mindfully. It's a German dark crime thriller. And if you're into shows like The Ozark, Dexter, You, or even Sweet Pea, then you'll probably want to stick around for this review.
A lawyer attends a mindfulness retreat to restore work-life balance, but unexpectedly becomes a murderer and mastermind for the mob.
So as always, we're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're going to start with the good. So right off the bat, the acting here is fantastic. Murder Mindfully introduces us to some standout performances. The lead actor is Tom Schelling. I don't know how I got Schelling. Schelling, who plays Bjorn Damel. Bjorn?
Bjorn.
Do you say the
Bjorn?
Bjorn?
Bjorn.
I'm doing well with the name today. He plays a lawyer who people walk over from the secretary at his firm, who just kind of likes to push holes at him, to the clients that he has to work with. Everybody in his life is walking over him. And because of this, it's having a disastrous effect on his family life. And this is where there's an ultimatum sort of made by his wife who says, you need to go and learn this mindfulness by this guy, guru type person, who's going to teach you the ways of the force. Well, basically the ways of the mind. And that's where the story starts to change and be different. Now, our actor here is fantastically done, because we start with him in a place where his life is sort of a mess. And then as he learns what mindfulness is, he implements each of these things wonderfully, and we get to be on that journey with him. We get to see him grow as a person, but also grow in other ways that maybe you shouldn't be grown as a person. But he plays this brilliantly. The journey that he's often going on, the moments that he finds himself in with mob bosses, policemen, wives, the whole story that is interconnected because of the spiraling events of this mindfulness journey that he's going on is wonderful. And he plays it so that he's learning how to use these mindful techniques in amongst really serious situations. Example, if you're faced with a mob boss who wants to know something about somebody or the location of that person, and he then goes to a special place, he manages to use breathing techniques or even the way to speak to diffuse a situation so that then he can manipulate people. So I loved him. I thought he was great.
Yeah, Tom Schelling was awesome. I liked how he made his character to be unassuming, nonchalant. I mean, it was crazy at how likable this guy is. I mean, he, like you said, he's walked all over.
Yeah.
And we get to watch him build in his confidence as things happen to him, and he exploits situations that he finds himself in. Also, for me, I thought it was funny because he looked like a German version of a cross between Zach Braff and Martin Henderson from Virgin River. So
I see that. Yeah.
He's an attractive guy. I mean, he's very just charismatic and everything. Then also the series, the way this is told, not only just because it's a German series, but how it's executed, it reminded me a lot of How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. The show is self-aware. It is quick-witted. It breaks the fourth wall
many times, which is so cool and well done, I think.
Yeah, it's not like the Deadpool gimmick. This is much more subtle and used sparingly.
It's almost like he's talking to himself still, even when he's breaking the fourth wall. It's like he's laughing at himself at the bizarre situation he's found himself in.
Yeah. And I thought they work. I often say this for shows that are kind of like this, where we find a character who gets themselves into situations. And there's a book called If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And basically what happens, well, if you give a mouse a cookie, then he's going to want a glass of milk. And if he wants a glass of milk, then he's going to And that's what happens within this story. And sometimes that could sound like that becomes annoying. And like, ugh, that's just, we've seen this all before. But the way that he encounters difficulties, all of the complications, they stack upon each other. And then how he uses the mindfulness techniques to work through those. See, I found myself actually kind of using these as he used them. It was weird. It was like almost like a self-help thing wrapped in a dark comedy about murder.
Yeah, it is exactly that. The techniques that he's using are real mindful techniques, because some of them we've heard or seen memes of, like people talking to you about how to use breathing or how to diffuse a situation. All of those are real techniques, making this somewhat grounded. And I think that comes down to it also being German and the German culture. There's something about the groundedness of these TV series, particularly when it's German culture, that makes it feel more tangible, more real. And so when you get that language, when you get the culture, the nuances that's implemented into this writing, it feels so much more real. So when you get the bizarre stories like this, somewhat feels real, relatable, and you're rooting for a bad guy.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. I mean, he's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because while he starts off, I mean, he's a lawyer, and that's never a good thing, is it? My dad's a liar. Yeah.
You mean lawyer? Yeah.
He still works for some bad people, and so he's not really the best of people, and he's got issues. He's damaged. He's a flawed character, most certainly. But he's also one of these that we really, really can become endeared to. I mean, there's a lot of charisma there, a lot of charm, and he exudes this so that we want to see him succeed, even though the things he's succeeding at are questionable.
However, there are storylines that the series does well into helping us like him as a character.
Oh, yeah.
For example, there's an ongoing storyline with his family. His wife plays the wife. We don't see too much of her, but mostly it's the little bits that we get with him and his daughter that really cement him as the father figure, and we wanting him to be a better father.
Yes.
This writing helps, I guess, back the idea that he can be a good guy, that he can be a father. Even when he's having to kill someone to save that idea, you're still rooting for him. Committing atrocities, you're still rooting for him, because at the end of the day, you want him to succeed. You want family to stick together. If you have a heart, that, the happy ending.
Yeah, it really is, which in a very twisted way. But yeah, that completely works.
There are also some side characters that I thought were excellent. There's a particular henchman that I guess he's along for the ride. He doesn't know that he's part of the along for the ride. He just kind of gets swept up into the momentum of the craziness that's unfolding. And he's another character that he might be a bad guy, but you instantly are rooting for.
Oh my gosh, Sasha is awesome. He's one of these that there are little bits of growth that we learn throughout development. The character is unveiled in a way that really, it doesn't just say, here it is. And it also doesn't say it like, here it is. It's just, it shows us little bits here and there, and it absolutely changes a perspective from this dude who was the henchman. I mean, he's the muscle.
The enforcer, yeah.
Yeah.
When he walks into a room, he's the muscle.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with it because he's super quiet and he just takes care of things.
Yeah.
And so bad things will happen to you if you have to mess with Sasha.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other side to him that we get to witness. And it is so great to just see him do that and how that influences Bjorn.
Yeah.
Also, and how those two interact together, I think, also.
Yeah, so the development of those characters really cements home whose team you're rooting for.
Yeah.
But then, at the same time, there are bad guys that you love to hate, that you want to die. And it does that so wonderfully. From the secretary, who's just a douche. I didn't necessarily want her to die, but she was really annoying.
Yes.
To the white middle-aged guys that run the firm. Those guys suck. To basically the mob bosses, which are generic in being mob bosses bad guys.
Yes.
Like the caricatures that they're playing, but also you love to hate them. And you kind of need those guys in this story so that you can be rooting for your good guy or your anti-hero.
Yeah.
And they do that wonderfully here.
You had mentioned earlier, I think, like Ozark and some other shows. And to me, this really reminded me a lot of both Lilyhammer and Ozark.
Oh, yeah.
with having a much more likable bad guy character in the lead of Lilyhammer and much less dark
Than Ozark.
than Ozark, even though a lot of the storylines feel similar to Ozark.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
Which is why I mentioned Sweet Pea, because that's definitely a dark horror comedy. And the comedy is the situation that our character finds themselves in, which this is definitely a lot of as well. I would say that the filming this is almost counter what's going on screen. There's a lot of light shots, beautifully lit, wonderfully daytime, but what's occurring is dark as heck, which in itself is funny. The dialogue here is sharp and really helps with that, which again is an oxymoron for some of the non-expositional moments that we get with our characters, like you were mentioning before. It doesn't dump exposition. It is explained through little bits of information. I would have liked some more on some of the side characters.
Yes.
But if we get more, that may come.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And I thought, like, going to exactly what you're talking about, the comedy is, it's dark, but it's on point. I mean, and it's always going back, which I appreciate the consistency of this, of Bjorn and his mindfulness training. So that we're not shown, which I'm very thankful for, we're not shown all of his training all at once when he meets with the guru dude.
Because that would be dull as heck.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then to revisit it every single time he does that, that would just be like, oh, shoot me in the head now.
Yeah, we don't want that.
And so Sasha would come over and take care of that. But we get little bits here and there when he first meets his therapist guru guy. So we get an understanding of what's going to happen, but then it's revealed slowly. And so it works itself naturally into the storytelling.
Yeah.
And it never feels like it's forced on us. It literally feels like, well, this is, okay, so he's recalling. This is the first time we're seeing it. And we get to see how it works for him. And then I find myself breathing as well. There's some creative filmmaking within this, but there was one that really stood out to me, one sequence where Bjorn is having a brainstorming session. The way they execute this, as he, in his mind, is walking through the forest, and as he encounters different ideas, and he's working through this, there were moments that were laugh out loud funny. They were very witty also, and it was just a smart bit of storytelling there.
In talking about the good and bad and ugly, we have to get to the bad, unfortunately. And I would say my major complaint for the bad, basically, is that there's too little. It's 8 episodes and they're about 30 minutes. So you get through it really quickly, which is, again, kind of just another tick in the good, because I wanted more of it. And when I talked about some of those characters, we know next to nothing about most of the characters except for our main family, because that's what we focus on. And that's okay, especially as we have such time frames. But I would have liked to know a little bit more about some of those side characters. Even Sasha would have been great to know a bit more about.
Yeah, I felt that kind of with the whole setup of if you give a mouse a cookie, that also creates a repetitious type of problem, introduction, resolution type of thing. You know,
I can see that.
And so the issues are different. All the situations are different. The resolutions are also different. But it's still, you kind of know that, okay, in this episode, Bjorn is going to come up against some kind of complication. He's going to have to come up with some sort of scheme or something to get out of that or to find the resolution for it. And then we're going to revisit this again. And so if you're binging it, which was awesome as a binge, because we did get to just watch it all as one huge thing, you can notice some of that a little bit. And I think that, while it didn't hugely bother me, it was noticeable.
Okay. Now moving on to the ugly. What is the theme of the series? If it's how to be a serial killer and a mob boss, they've completed their job. If it's how to deceive your loved ones, tick, they've done that. If it's how to manipulate everyone in your life, tick. I enjoyed it, but I can't help but feel the series' message, mindfulness, gets lost in the stabby things.
I can see how they contradict. For me, though, that wasn't ugly. That worked really well because
it just got me thinking at the end. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, how better to find your zen than to eliminate your problems, right? And he was eliminating his problems.
What are you guys saying here?
And bettering himself as it went along, you know? I'm sure that's not a healthy way of taking care of your
not,
problems.
but it's wonderful to watch.
Yeah, wildly entertaining.
My only real negativity, which is the ugly, is the fact that it's Netflix. So Murder Mindfully, it is great as a one-contained series, and it kind of has enough of an ending so that if it isn't picked up, that's fine. We enjoyed it for what it is. It leaves us in a place where I think most of the storylines are complete. There is wider tangents that they haven't completely tied up, and that's fine. But the ugly is the fact that it is Netflix, and we never know whether we're going to get a second season. But that was me having to pull at things of threads to trying to find ugly, because I basically couldn't find any.
Yeah, and mine, not even an ugly, it's just a bad, is like you had said with side characters, I thought his wife would have played a more integral role in the story.
Yeah.
Just because she feels...
She feels integral to the story. No,
yeah,
it's totally right, yeah.
Yeah, she's... I mean,
but
she's
she kind
a
of
huge...
just plays the wife.
Yeah. She's huge impetus for all of his journey. But she's only in it here and there, little, you know, so...
So my final thoughts. So who is this for? If you're into dark comedies like morally grey protagonists and are intrigued by mindfulness and wellness industries with a murderous twist, then Murder Mindfully is absolutely worth your time. Its character development is impressively tight and the show's message is sharp. What does it mean to be truly good in a world of competing values? It's a clever, beautifully shot and wickedly dark series that I think many of you will enjoy. And hey, for Dexter, You, Sweet Pea and Ozark fans, this series hits all the right notes, but still manages to feel unique in its German authenticity. I give Murder Mindfully 4.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
You got one.
Thanks so much for watching. Do leave me a like and subscribe, and hit up Chris's channel. If you don't know Chris's channel from Movies and Munchies just yet, you should do, because we're on it together enough. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long on Tuesday.